and justice for all.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Here.
Mr. Putoff.
Here.
Mr. Sextro.
Here.
Ms. McDaniel. Here. Mr. Albrecht.
Here.
Mr. Burke is on his way.
Mr. Burke is on his way. We're going to do all of the promotion and hiring ordinances first. We'll do all of them, and then we'll go to the swearing in of each of you individually, okay? So we have, the first ordinance is ordinance 22-28, and we need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
An ordinance appointing Maria D. Santillon and Caitlin M. Leslie as police cadets and employees of the Village of Evendale Police Department, and upon successful completion of the police academy as police officers of the Village of Evendale and declaring it as an emergency. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Now can I have a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
And now declare ordinance 22-28 adopted as an emergency. Next, we have ordinance 22-29, and I need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
An ordinance appointing Taylor L. Milam as a police officer of the Village of Evendale and declaring it as an emergency. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second. Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-29 adopted as an emergency. Next, we have ordinance 22-30, and I need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
An ordinance appointing Timothy Holloway as police chief of the Village of Evendale and confirming the rank and rate of pay for assistant police chief of the Village of Evendale and appointing Sean McKinney as assistant chief and declaring it as an emergency. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
May I have a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second. Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-30 adopted as an emergency. All right, we'll get to the swearing in then. Ms. Santillon, you want to step up first? Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear and support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
Do solemnly swear that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the village of Evendale, Ohio,
and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and the ordinances of the village of Evendale, Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police cadet to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police cadet to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, that's the next one.
Do you have anyone with you tonight you'd like to introduce? My wife is here. Okay. Welcome. How are you? Good. Anyone else? Okay. Caitlin Leslie, please step up. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Caitlin M. Leslie,
I, Caitlin M. Leslie,
do solemnly swear that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear that I support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the village of Evendale, Ohio,
and that I, in all respects, observe the provisions in the charter and ordinances of the village of Evendale, Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge my duties as police cadet to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police cadet to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'll take it. I'll get you one.
Anyone here you'd like to introduce?
And my father and my mom, Jim Leslie and Kathy Leslie.
Very good. If you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Taylor L. Milam,
I, Taylor L. Milam,
do solemnly swear that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the village of Evendale, Ohio,
and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and ordinance of the village of Evendale, Ohio,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
staff and mayor and administration for giving me this opportunity. I'm looking forward to it as well. Very excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
There you are.
Mayor, thank you.
You probably knew this by heart.
It's-
Raise your right hand. I, Sean McKinney,
I, Sean McKinney,
do solemnly swear that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the Village of Evendale,
and that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and the ordinances of the Village of Evendale,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Assistant Police Chief to the best of my ability.
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Assistant Police Chief to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone you'd like to introduce?
So I have some family here, my wife Emily, my four children, Abigail, Jordan, Cameron, and Evan, and then also my parents, Bill and Melissa.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Timothy Holloway,
I, Timothy Holloway,
do solemnly swear I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear that I will support and obey the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the Village of Evendale, Ohio,
and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and the ordinances of the Village of Evendale, Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police chief to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police chief to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, anyone you'd like to introduce?
My family's here, my mom and my wife. In honor of Mother's Day, they will be putting my collar brace on, and my oldest son Andrew will be putting my bag. traditions of Chief Cordy and continue to lead the department with an agency of professionalism and service. And Caitlin and Dolores and Taylor, welcome to the family. I mean, it's a family, okay? All right, thank you all.
That we're hiring 3 new police officers, a new assistant chief, and a new chief. So it's a major changeover for the village, and we're very, very proud to have the people that we have in these positions at this particular time. We thank you very, very much. Thank you. Okay. Now, the minutes have been, wait till the crowd clears.
I'll take mine. You can-
I got a
I
pencil.
like that pencil.
I know, I like it too.
We never get to cake. I just gave this.
That certainly cleared it out.
Well, when Pam said there was cake?
Ooh. I'll be darned. We will, the minutes have been previously distributed of the last meeting of council. Is there any objections, changes? If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
All right, we will go to council reports, and Finance Committee will report first.
Yeah, Mayor, last month was a very positive month. Revenues exceeded expenditures by about almost $1.2 million. Year-to-date, we are up about $760,000. However, we got to keep in mind that last year we delayed the filing deadline a month, so really we won't know where we stand as compared to last year until the end of May, end of this month. So we'll have a better gauge at next month's meeting. But everything else is positive. Year over year in all categories, revenues seem to be exceeding prior years. So at least it's a positive trend, and I say this every month, that we hope it continues.
Feels
but
good.
It feels good. It's better than going the other way. Recreation, the pool is going on some repair work to prepare it for the opening here in a few weeks. So that's all positive, and no restrictions this year with the pool, and kind of getting back to normal with recreation. Also, the extravaganza, we had 205 children participating, 650 in attendance. Of note, it's the largest attended event for this event on record since 2004, so about 18 years, so great attendance for that. The Gorman Farm, this Sunday between 2 and 4, the Soil and Stars Education Center will have an open house. The farm will be hosting the open house there, so everybody's welcome to attend that with some remarks by the mayor. Row by Row dinner is August 20th. Tickets start, you can purchase those effective June 1st. The Sunflower Festival, and this is a little bit out, but it will be the first week, as it is every year, the first week, which is the 1st and 2nd of October. And so just mark your calendars for that coming up. Also, for those who are interested in participate, the full weekday camp is actually sold out, and they do have a few openings for young kids 3 to 6 in the 3-day Sprouts camp. So if you're interested, those spots are filling up very quickly. The service department, the big news is the shred day, and I didn't get a chance to hear from James on how much, no totals. but another successful shred day. As it is every year, it's always nice to be able to get rid of the excess garbage. But the most important, what I want to highlight is that it will be on tonight's agenda, the bid for the street project, and I just want to read the streets so everybody watching is aware. The following streets will be resurfaced. It's going to be Arrow Hub south, so that across the highway, Glendale Milford Road from Reading Road going west, again towards the highway, and then Cooper Hill, Fawn Run, Giverny, Sharondale, Knoll View East, Moore Hill, Margate Terrace West, Plateau, Twilight, Woodley Lane, and Woodley Court will all beginning new surfacing, new roads this year.
I tell people, if you see some markings on your street, you may be lucky. Depends on which way the arrows are pointing, though.
So, and that's about it.
Okay.
I did, Mayor, I'm sorry, I did want to, one other people will be seeing a little bit of work at the old PNC Bank. That's going to be the staging area for the new Duke Relief Station, which is going up Glendale Milford Road on your left. As you're going up the hill, you'll see some work and some activity there. That's going to be the new Duke Relief Station. And so just want to, people are asking about that as well.
Okay. Any questions, comments for Finance Committee? If not, Police and Fire.
Okay, starting with police. Gosh, I guess most everything that we covered
Pretty well.
was earlier this evening. Also, we will be having a sergeant's promotional exam. We reviewed the process for that, and it's going to be a component of written assessments and also interviews with the hiring committee. We don't expect the hiring committee to meet with promotional candidates until July. Okay. So also there's an ordinance on the agenda. Well, there are a couple of ordinances on the agenda. One, because we've hired some more police officers than we expected, so we had to transfer funds for uniforms and for training. And also the Police Chiefs Association, well, actually the Hamilton, yes, the association has asked for our help in buying some equipment for the county SWAT team. And so we have the money in the law enforcement trust fund. So, yeah, law enforcement trust fund. So that's what the ordinance is about. That's our contribution. There are a number of communities contributing to that.
And we can only use that trust fund for a certain limited number of things, and this fits the bill.
Fits the bill. Okay. Fire, there's an ordinance coming up. Again, as a result of hiring, we had a candidate, and all of these, I had a conversation with Councilman Albright right before. We've had to do some different things with hiring than we have traditionally done. You know, usually we wait till people have been trained or whatever and hire them. With the job market the way it is now, when we see good candidates, you know, we've already done some different things. One is going to be for a young man who we were very impressed with in hiring committee, but was not yet a paramedic. And so our solution there was to try to, our plan is to pay for him to get the paramedic training under the provision that we will have an opening in 2023, and then we would hire him at that particular point. So that's the one ordinance there. And we had discussions about equipment that we're going to need in 2027, as in an ambulance and an engine. And the price tag on these are such that, or I should say, there's two things coming into play. Now the delivery to have something custom built is taking 18 to 24 months, so we're gonna need to order in 2025. The ambulance price tag looks like it's gonna be between 200 and 350,000. And just because of the type of engine, we're gonna get a Quint, we're looking at 900,000. So the chief is currently working on the plan for that. Just want to let you know now, so that you don't have shock later that we're gonna be needing to purchase some equipment for the fire department. Yes, and they're asking for 50% down payment when we do that. So we should be okay, though, because of the revenues that we get from the paramedic runs.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
emergency calls.
Emergency calls, yes. So that's police and fire. There aren't any ordinance for planning and zoning, but there's some things coming up at the Planning Commission meeting to address the zoning text amendment to allow storage in the research district, and also for another issue, just want to make you aware of that in planning and zoning. And then moving on to cultural arts, we had a great fine arts exhibit. 400 people were in attendance, which was lower, obviously, than pre-COVID numbers, but still, in checking with other cultural arts organizations, found out that it's better than attendance than other communities were having for functions that they had for events post-COVID. So kudos to the cultural arts.
Just one, I actually really liked it in the gym. I don't know if that was but it was nice because you're more spread out, and I like that. Side note.
I kind of think that was the consensus of everybody.
Yeah,
Yes.
there was quite a few comments to that effect.
We had one person say one negative thing, and everybody, I would say 91% really enjoyed it, so.
Playhouse in the Park had The Little Mermaid. They had 90 in attendance and more Evendale residents than usual, so just wanted to let you know that. Wine tasting is still popular, sold out for May. June's wine tasting event is going to be on the Rec Center patio on Saturday, June 11th at 5:30. More details to follow. You should be able to find more information on the website starting next week for that. And Mayor, you're going to speak about the elevator?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I will defer to that. And then summer camp numbers are looking very good at this point as well. Art Venture, the May event is for the Butterfly Show at Crone Conservatory, and lunch will be at the diner downtown. If you haven't, I had an opportunity to see that event in previous years. It's interesting.
Spectacular.
Really.
I've been there too. It's spectacular.
Yes. The mechanized shades were installed, and they're working the way that, they're doing what we had them installed to do. So I think that's our report.
Any comments, questions? I have a couple things. The councilwoman talked about the elevator. We have now accumulated $425,000 in that fund, and we have been contacted by Congressman Shabbat's office and indicated that they had some funds to distribute, and we have applied for those funds, and we're very hopeful that we've applied for $750,000, so we're very hopeful that that we can get the rest of those funds and get that job done over there. The pond at the Griffin Nature Preserve is open for fishing. It's catch and release, remember, but it's open for fish. It's been fully stocked, and it also has the aerator running. The ICRC has put us up for an award called, Eagles project that was filmed on the pavilion, at the pavilion last summer. And they put us up for a blue chip award. Now, we're one of 50, so it's, might be a good, not good odds, but, and I don't know how many they give, but it's just nice to be recognized in what they do up there and what goes on. We had a Zoom call this week with the governor about the gun range. We were on the line was Commissioner Driehaus, Vice Mayor Kearney, Mayor Mumphrey, Mayor Poole, Tom Burton, Superintendent of Schools, and about 5 or 6 other people, Mayor John Aliotto from the county administrator. And I thought it was a very good call. We had some positive feedback. We followed that up with some information to our state senator today, and we've extended to him the idea of trying to get us into the capital fund yet. The capital budget has not been done yet. It's usually done by the end of March. But they've been so busy with redistricting, they haven't had time to get around to the capital budget yet. So we sent Senator Blessing a copy of the stuff that we sent to the governor, and we'll see if he can get with the chairman of the Finance Committee, who happens to be Matt Dolan, who is a friend of mine. And let's see, I think the rest of it has pretty well been covered by the people here. Is there any additions, corrections, or changes?
I'd like to
Oh,
talk
yes.
about,
I had that at the top of my list, and I've passed it by.
I would like to add a little bit more to the Griffin Family Nature Preserve
I had you,
report.
and I forgot. Go ahead.
Besides what the mayor talked about, the fish being stocked up there with the catch and release, we had a volunteer day in which the members of Fireland to Pie came up and helped out. And I think we had eight or nine members of Pie, and I think we had a total of about 15 of us. There was a couple neighbors that stopped by and helped out. Beth had posted some signs, I think 3 signs along the trails up there. People that used the property could see that this event was taking place, and we had a great day. We redid the garden around the parking lot, and we've just got a couple more small trees to put in there, and we'll have that project complete. We are going to do another volunteer day on May 21st, and that's when we're hoping to put those 2 trees in and do some additional cleanup along the creek bed. That is going to be, that's Saturday from 9 to noon, is that right, guys? Yes. Saturday, 9 to noon. So it was really exciting to have that many people up there again. I mean, every time we get a nice crowd on volunteer day, it's just so productive, and go check it out. It looks nice up there.
And you had 3 council persons.
And we did, yes.
Yourself, Mr. McDaniel, and Steve Burke all participated in the event. And I hear it was a lot of work.
It took a little time, but we took care of it.
Also, you had the cooperation with the service department.
Oh, absolutely. I
You couldn't have done
do
it
want to
without
thank the service department, because they did a great job making sure we had the materials up there that we needed to do the job, and came back later, so the pathway that we hadn't gotten mulched, they took care of getting it mulched for us. So they completed what we were planning on getting completed for the weekend. So I appreciate that, James. It was a great job.
Good report. Anything else? Okay, we'll go to the ordinances, back to the ordinances then. We have ordinance 22-31. I need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Kathleen F. Ryan for provision of legal services and declaring it as an emergency of the Village of Evendale. Our longtime law director, is retiring, and it's become necessary to have a new person. He was gracious enough to suggest two names to me. We interviewed both of them. We chose Kathy Ryan. Many of you know her because she has worked here before. She filled in for Tim on many occasions, and I just felt she was a better fit for the community than the other, although the other person is extremely well qualified, both extremely well qualified. And Tim swears that on occasion, if we need him, he shall return. He shall return. He shall return. Okay, may I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Who made the second?
I guess
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
May I have a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I now declare 22-31 adopted as an emergency. Twenty-two 33, I need permission to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to hire seasonal employees and setting pay rates and declaring it as an emergency. These are for the ones that are not part of the Evendale family, I might say. May I have a motion to suspend the second, third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
May I have a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
May I have a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-33 adopted as an emergency. Next, I have ordinance 22-34, and I'd like permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke? I'm sorry, you need to, you're abstaining.
Accused.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Now I need a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-34 adopted as an emergency. Next is ordinance 22-35, and I need a motion to read it by title only.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to hire seasonal employees and setting up pay rates and declaring it as an emergency. I need a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Next is ordinance 22-36, and I'd like to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
I'd like a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Now a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-36 adopted as an emergency. And just for people who are watching us, maybe on TV, we have 4 ordinances because some of the people are, as I said, part of the Evendale family, and therefore they cannot vote for employment of one of the members of their family. Next, I have ordinance 22-37. I need a motion to read it by title only.
So moved. Second.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to hire Megan von Lamenden, close, as a part-time child care attendant for the Recreation Department and declaring it as an emergency. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third readings of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-37 adopted as an emergency. Boy, we're hiring a lot of people tonight.
We are.
Okay, next is ordinance 22-38. Need a motion to read it by title only.
So moved. Second.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht. Ms.
Yes.
Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
A motion to, ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation for systematic sign replacement and declaring it as an emergency. Whatever. Now I need a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
So moved.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel. Ms.
Yes.
Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Who seconded that?
Objective.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-38 adopted as an emergency. Next, ordinance 22-39. I'd like permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
An ordinance approving a transfer from the contingency fund to the police department and declaring it as an emergency. This is for the uniforms and the training for the new police persons that we have to do. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mayor,
No.
before we do the next part, I just want a point of clarification here. In the second, whereas we said the additional retirement, because we'll be hiring 3 new officers rather than 2 as initially planned during the budget period, isn't the budget period 2022? And weren't there 3 officers hired and 4 people retiring for the year? I just want the record to be accurate. Right. So the budget shortfall is not because of 3 new, it's 4 hires, excuse me. 4 retirements.
3 new hires.
3 hires,
3 hire.
right.
3 hire.
And
4.
No,
We just hired 3
hires,
tonight.
because Caleb
4.
was fourth.
4 hires and 4
4
retired.
hires, and we had, isn't it 4 retirements?
We only hired 3 tonight.
But it's not
Hired one
about,
earlier this year.
right,
For the whole budget.
right. It's for the whole budget, it said for the budget period, which means I think we have to account for previous retirement and hire.
I'm not sure I follow you.
So we did 3 tonight. We did 1 previously, a new hire. So that's 4. And the budget fits the whole 2022.
So is this for 4 officers, for all 4 officers, Chief? Well, she's raising the question, I guess, of uniforms.
Well, I'm questioning the fact that it says because of an additional retirement, but it lists the fact that we had hired only 3 officers, when in the budget period, we have actually hired 4 officers.
Just take out the numbers.
Would it be easier to simply say due to retirements and hiring new officers?
Works for me,
Offers than initially planned.
yes. So moved.
You move to amend. Is there a second?
I'll second our amendment.
Can you repeat that, please? What you're changing it to?
David?
Hiring more new officers than initially planned during the budget period.
Oh, okay, taking out the numbers.
3
Okay,
instead of 4, take out 2 as.
okay. Motion for that was,
Carolyn and Jeff.
Carolyn and Jeff.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Now can I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the amended ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Now a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the amended ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Now a motion to adopt the amended ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
I thought we just did that. We've done it all.
No.
You did
Last one.
you did a vote for the amendment.
Vote for
Put
the
that in a
amendment.
spot.
Okay, well, I have everything marked off, so, okay.
Give us one more.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-39 adopted as an emergency. Next, ordinance 22-40, need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
An ordinance approving an additional appropriation in the Law Enforcement Trust Fund and declaring it as an emergency. This is what Councilperson Smiley Robinson talked about earlier. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Now a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-40 adopted as an emergency. Ordinance 22-41, I'd like permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ordinance amending certain provisions of Chapter 258, Employees Generally Purpose and Policies, Employees General Purpose and Policies, specifically Sections 258.020C, Casual Time Definitions, Sections 258.27, Sick Leave Donations, and Section 258.175, Grievance and declaring it as an emergency.
Should that, I'm sorry, should that second section be 258 or 285? I'm reading 285, but maybe I don't.
Should be 285127.
It should be 258.
Oh,
Should be 258,
sorry.
127.
Typo.
The 127.
258.157.
127.
I apologize, that's a typo we didn't catch.
No, that's okay, I just,
I just noticed it.
May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Putoff?
yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
May I have a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second,
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-41 adopted as an emergency. Next, ordinance 22-42. I'd like permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Ordinance authorizing 2 lump sum payments to be made to Evendale employees and declaring it as an emergency. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second,
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Now a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-42 adopted as an emergency. Ordinance 22-43. I need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Peyton Oakley to attend the paramedic program at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College and to be offered a position on the Village of Evendale Fire Department and declaring it as an emergency. I think you all remember the circumstances around this, and we interviewed the gentleman. We found him very acceptable for the fire department, but he's an EMT, but he's not yet a paramedic, so we're going to pay for it. Motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-42 adopted as an emergency. Ordinance 22-43, not 42. Now ordinance 22-44. I need a permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for the 2022 street improvement project and declaring it as an emergency. And I believe it's John Jorgensen has won the contract for the street repairs. May I have a motion to suspend the second and third reading of the ordinance?
So moved.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to adopt the emergency clause of the ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
I now declare ordinance 22-44 adopted as an emergency. Next is ordinance 22-45. I need permission to read it by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Putoff.
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson.
Yes.
Mr. Sextro.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
An ordinance amending subsection 1266.09 HIB 2 and as relative to accessory uses and structures, fences and walls, and declaring it as an emergency. But we're reading it as a first reading tonight only.
It's H1, Mayor, please.
Please,
It's H1 and not I.
I can't read it. My glasses fail. So that'll be a first reading of the ordinance. Now, Mr. Burke has asked for time to discuss another matter with us. Mr. Burke.
Because we did not schedule an executive session, I want to limit this discussion to procedural issues, not a discussion on the merits at all. You are currently scheduled to have in front of you at the June meeting the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision with regard to a possible billboard on 75 on the Local 100 Teamsters property. A couple of procedural questions. As I think some of you are aware, the billboard company has indicated a willingness to see if they can do anything that would essentially gain your support. I think some of you may have even seen some of the drawings that they have provided and what they've done in other communities. One question is, are you interested in hearing separately, before the hearing is actually before council, are you interested in exploring any further the possible alternatives that could be developed? Or is it your preference to move directly to the hearing on the appeal from the Planning Commission?
Anybody?
It's hard to answer without more discussion, but my inclination would be no.
And I will tell you that they could still propose
I mean,
alternatives
I will listen
when
to
they come
them if they
before
want
you
to,
in
but
a hearing.
Okay.
I don't want to go into more than you want us to go into at this point, so.
This is on procedure.
Agreed.
As to whether you want another discussion with them or whether you want to go direct to the appeal on next council meeting.
Let me ask you this. If the appeal is denied, my suspicion is that they're going to resurrect and come back with alternatives. Or do you feel that that's the case?
I'm not certain. If the appeal is denied, they would also have the right to pursue a Chapter 2506 appeal to the Hamilton County Court of Common Pleas.
But could they also not resubmit with different plans, different options, the options that we would be reviewing that you indicated that?
They could, but I think that would be difficult for them to do right after something was denied.
I don't think that's.
All right, I don't want to go through the appeal process, and we're still getting back to them, presenting new ideas, new concepts. Anyway, that was my question.
Now, if they come in next month and you are intrigued by something they say, you don't necessarily have to make a decision that night. You could put it off for further discussion. That's up to you entirely as to how you want to handle that.
They've already presented to
They presented to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission,
denied it.
they denied it. I think the Planning Commission would have told you that they were impressed by the presentation they heard, but they didn't feel there was enough there to grant the variance that they were seeking. And Dave, do you think that's a fair way of saying it? I'm sorry, thank you, that's correct. The other procedural issue is this is now scheduled to come before you at your June meeting, which doesn't have the long agenda that tonight's meeting
And I will be absent.
did. Bill will not be here, and you're going to have a hearing because they're entitled to put on all of the evidence that they put on in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you will hear from a number of people.
Would that be like a public hearing before council gets into the agenda?
The difference would be these witnesses would all be sworn in, and they would be under oath, as they were before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay. So is it the druthers of council to just go to the council meeting?
I would agree that that's the
Okay.
proper
And I think it
approach.
took the Zoning Board of Appeals, what, about an hour to hear everything?
I didn't attend that meeting, but it was unanimous.
It was clearly a unanimous denial. I agree.
And I prepared to, if you're not aware, I prepared a summary report and provided it to council and subcommittee meetings last Tuesday.
Yeah, I've seen the material and a summary of it, and I would deny it based on that.
That's what I don't want to
We
get
don't
into.
want.
I'm sorry.
That's a vote. You don't.
And frankly, you are, because it will be what's regarded as a quasi-judicial hearing, your decision should be made on the evidence that is presented to you at the quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay, we will then go directly to the hearing at the next council meeting.
And I will so inform folks.
Okay.
And while I have the mic, let me just say thank you to everyone. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time here. It ended up being a whole hell of a lot longer than I expected it to be. I've always enjoyed working with local government because I think it's the government that is the closest to people, and people have the greatest opportunity to impact it. And that's been the case, and I've worked in a lot of local governments around here, and that's always the case. But I'd leave you with this thought about local government, and this is applicable to Evendale as well. 20 years or so ago, I had the opportunity to serve as an international supervisor of the first municipal elections in Bosnia, post-war Bosnia. The polling place that I was in charge of was in an old schoolhouse. There was a live minefield right next door. The buildings across the street were destroyed, and that was the case through much of rural Bosnia. The elections were held on Saturday and Sunday. We had 900 people in our polling place. By Sunday afternoon, nobody was coming because 98% of the people in that precinct had voted. In Evendale's last municipal election, you had 43% of the people voting. That's the biggest frustration that I have with local governments, is while it's the place where citizens can have the greatest impact, so many of them don't bother to vote. And here, you've got one of the most unique communities in Southwest Ohio. With everything that you have to offer to your citizens, it's truly amazing. And I've been extremely impressed by how little capital P politics goes on in this room. You all, in the almost 20 years that I've been here, there have been very few arguments that I thought were partisan in nature. And that's a real tribute to all of you who have held those seats. And again, I thank you for allowing me to share that with you.
I think in the years that I've been here, and I think your love of local government comes through loud and clear. You have always been available to any of our department heads, any of the people, to me, for opinions, for help, for ideas. I can't thank you enough for the service that you've rendered to this village and to the community and to me in particular. It's been outstanding, and we're going to miss you.
I appreciate that.
We're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Anything else to come before council tonight? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Putoff?
Yes.
Mr. Sextro?
Yes.
Ms. Smiley Robertson?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Adjourn.